Guys, I have a big question. What number comes after 1?
1, I can count to 1, 2, I can count to 2.
So, if you've not watched it yet, I put out a video at the end of January reviewing the highlights and lowlights of Simpsons Season 1. It did fine enough, but this isn't really a dead-in-the-water topic for me, and I think we can truly dive deeper. The Simpsons Season 2 is the season that follows Season 1. Big shock, I know. And it's also the second season of the show. Whoa, who knew? But it's also the first season that I'm going into blind as a season. The episodes that were in the rotation that I saw, sure, as a kid, like I would encounter Season 2 episodes in the wild. But with Season 1, I had attempted to review that entire season back in 2017, 9 years ago. Safe to say, high school me got 6 episodes in, and that is the exact amount of videos that I did in my last video, so old habits die hard. Now, Season 2 of The Simpsons has 22 episodes, and my initial reaction was that it would be an easy one to top 5, bottom 5, but also no. Season 2 has the problem of being a dang fine season of television. I think 4 episodes I would consider meh, but that means like 82% of the episodes are at least landing, and like only 3 of those are 6s. So instead today, we're going to be going over the 6 best episodes of the season and the 4 weakest ones. And also, there's still more here that I can talk about in a video for Patreon or something at some point. With that said, this is The Simpsons Season 2. Episode 1, Bart Gets an F. So, this is an episode that I was really floored to find happening as early as Season 2. Bart Gets an F is like the fundamental core to Bart's character one, to the point where it might just be the perfect proper introduction to him. After he fails a history test one too many times, Bart's told that if he fails again, he's gonna have to repeat the 4th grade. So he puts his pedal to the metal and studies. This episode's just genuinely a classic. If you like Bart, you're gonna love this one. It's also great introductions to other characters in Bart's world. Martin, Sherry and Terry, Milhouse, and especially Krabappel. The ending is really a pinnacle of showing who Krabappel is and her and Bart's dynamic, which is one of the longest lasting in the show. Not much really else to say, just know that this is a must-watch Bart episode. Episode 2, Simpson and Delilah. So when I was going through Season 1, I had this problem of there being like 2 great episodes and the rest was mostly good, but had whatever issues. Season 2 though is a much harder problem because a lot of what I could have put in this video could have gotten cut, and to be totally real, before I went to 6 good episodes, Simpson and Delilah would have been on the chopping block. Simpson and Delilah sees Homer putting a hair regrowth supplement on his company insurance and shooting up to the top of the power plant, at which point he's given a new assistant named Carl, who's guest voiced by Harvey Fierstein. Carl literally is just so good at his job that things work smoothly and keeps Homer in the ranks. And the funny thing is we never really know exactly why he's so devoted to Homer, past seeing potential in the guy and
I deserve this! Shout it! I am nature's greatest miracle!
Undertones. Homer and Delilah really feels like one of those Keystone Homer episodes, especially this early on into the show. I think this is one that really just nails the power plant as a setting in a way that Season 1 episodes like Homer's Odyssey could not, which is needed because this location is going to be showing up as the most important place in Homer stories going further. Also, I want to compliment Harvey Fierstein a bit more. His voice is just really unique and it genuinely makes Carl far more memorable than most guest stars that The Simpsons gets. I should warn you in advance, I'm not a big fan of some of the celebrity worship that The Simpsons does, and you might be thinking, oh, that's in the far future, but they've been having this celebrity worship culture since the very beginning. For me, I'd rather always a celebrity play a character who fits them than themselves, and this is a great instance of that kind of casting. All in all, really solid episode that really re-equips the Homer that the series is going to be using going forward, and yeah, that's Simpson and Delilah. Episode 5, Dancin Homer. In Dancin Homer, the nuclear power plant goes on a group outing to the Springfield Isotopes game. and then Homer dances and it rallies the normally losing isotopes into a certain victory. Homer is recruited to be the team's mascot, and after the successes with the isotopes, he's offered to go to Capital City and dance with them. So the Simpsons family moves to Capital City, where Homer's bad and then gets fired, forcing the family
Spaghetti. Ravioli.
This episode is just boring. Homer is the kind of character where ultimately I think a lot of writers feel like you can just drop him in anywhere. You often can. It's just dropping an interesting character into a boring plot doesn't make the plot not boring. The big thing for me is I always find Homer to be strongest when we center more on his relationships or the things that he has ties to. Simpsons and Delilah is fun because we care about Homer and his job. We do care about him and his family, but the actual part where they have to move isn't until the last third of this, which I'm gonna say is definitely also a series issue earlier than you'd think. The Simpsons has a pacing issue often where the writers will finally do something interesting with a plot, and it's in the last 7 minutes of the episode. And even with this, the episode's just boring. It's not really bad or anything. I just don't have much to say about Dancin Homer. Homer dances all over the place. Ayo, Dancin Homer! Episode 7, Bart vs. Thanksgiving. Bart vs. Thanksgiving is the first Thanksgiving episode of The Simpsons canon. It sees at the year's Thanksgiving, Bart fighting with Lisa, burning her centerpiece, and instead of being grounded, he runs away with Santa's little helper. And you might be thinking, oh, is the rest of this episode the family heading out to look for Bart? No, it's mostly just them sitting around for Thanksgiving while Bart acts like he's been kicked out homeless in the streets. There's like a semblance of kindness in how people Bart meets treat him, but this episode just is kind of mean, which is a pattern because more than any other family member, Bart just gets targeted for these mean plots, and he's also like only gone for 8 minutes of the episode. While the ending is fine, it restores things and it's kind of sweet, this is just more underwhelming than anything and not really a solid Thanksgiving episode to make as your first one. I don't think I'd ever go to watch a Bart vs. Thanksgiving again. Episode 9, Itchy and Scratchy and Marge. Itchy and Scratchy and Marge sees Maggie kill Homer in cold blood. He's fine, but now we know where Maggie's penchant for violence came from. With Homer injured, Marge looks for something to blame and settles that Maggie learned the behavior from Itchy and Scratchy. She proceeds to go on a crusade, first to remove the show from her own family, but when that's not good enough, to censor Itchy and Scratchy. When I say that this is, to this day, like one of the most memorable episodes of The Simpsons to me, I really mean that. The writers worked their butts off to create a story that goes full 22 minutes and really dives into this commentary on censorship. Before coming to the conclusion, if we start censoring things, we won't stop, which is true and completely holds up today. The sheer amount of things that we ban for everyone just because we don't want a certain group of people to take influence from, that really is just super present today, like when the only perfect form of censorship truly is to self-censor. The other cool thing with this episode is we really get to see this different side of Marge here. She's usually defined by how sweet she is, especially for the other characters, but giving her something to be passionate about really enhances her character and explains her values. Honestly, I can't really also gush up enough about how funny this is, from Maggie's attack on Homer to the satire of literally every party involved, but also the Itchy and Scratchy writer's solution to Marge's movement being to just draw her into the cartoon. So, okay, the weirdest thing that gets me to laugh out loud every time I see this episode is just randomly Kent shouting at Krusty the Clown while he's on Smartline.
Sorry, Kent. It's just when the camera gets on me, I go, hey, hey!
Krusty!
The Simpsons really, by season 2, has shown it's enhanced the depth of the show's roster when it says something that they have characters ready to go and fill any role they need and don't have to make up completely new faces for these bits. Also, guest star Alex Rocco has a really memorable role as Itchy and Scratchy's studio head, Roger Myers Jr. He's just another example of the show's tendency to use unique sounding guest stars and take advantage of the animated medium being so good at building characters around the voices. The Simpsons uses famously a small voice cast. If you hear an adult male, it's usually Dude, I can't believe I'm about to do this to Dan. Castellaneta.
Dan Castellaneta.
Harry Shearer or Hank Azaria. If you hear a child, usually Nancy Cartwright, Russi Taylor, or Pamela Hayden. And if you hear a Bouvier, it's Julie Kavner. It's always Julie Kavner. This makes actors who do only one of the characters stand out all the stronger. And all this is to say, Itchy and Scratchy and Marge is great. It's one of those episodes that I can always go back to and fall in love with again because every piece of this just works. First, like, solid 10 out of 10 episode of the entire series. Episode 10, Bart Gets Hit by a Car. Bart gets hit by a car, sees Bart Simpson get hit by a car, because he got hit by a car, because Bart got hit by a car, because Bart got hit, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Dancin Homer! But it turns out, so the guy driving the car is Mr. Burns. So now Homer is gonna try and sue Mr. Burns by exaggerating the injuries. Yep. That's the episode. Look, this one's closer to like a 6 out of 10 than a 5 out of 10, but at the same time, just this ending's awkward. Homer telling Marge that he thinks he's not no longer gonna love her, just seems to be dumb and is unlikable. And I just don't think I have any reason to think about this one again. Bye. Episode 11, One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish. Okay, so I think through this series of videos, I'm gonna be making a lot of people unhappy with what I say, and this is the first big one. I think One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish is the worst episode in all of Simpsons Season 2. This is like the highest rated one on IMDb, which it's not Letterboxd, but you know, it's kind of Letterboxd for TV at this point. Oh boy, I'm gonna make some friends here. In this episode, Homer and the family go to a sushi restaurant. There, Homer orders a blowfish that may or may not have been poisonous. Now, Homer has less than 24 hours to live, and he has to go after his bucket list. Okay, I think the best way for me to handle this is a compliment sandwich because, yeah, I want to make it very clear that me disliking such a popular episode is not an indictment of the episode. I am just some guy who's been watching The Simpsons instead of doing things. But I'm still some guy, guys. I find there to be a lot of sweet scenes on a standalone basis. Homer's interactions with each of his kids and Marge are all fun. He finally teaches Bart to shave, gets to tell Burns off. These are some genuinely good moments to see play out. I just can't help but to think that this is the episode that you do later down the line instead of episode 24 of a show. We see so many more of these dynamics truly cement themselves as special as the show goes on. And the magic of streaming is that if I wanted to watch this as a season finale, I could, but this is just really early. Sure, it's nice seeing Homer have sweet send-offs, but on the other side of this coin, a last day to live feels so cheap in a lot of sitcoms. I find it harder to get emotionally invested in this, and I think that the episode falls apart by the last third. I know that's gonna be down to preference more than anything, so you guys have full permission to blast me for how wrong I am in the comments, because I know that this opinion, more than any others that I spew this video, is gonna be down as one of my worst takes that I've had on the show. But if you like the episode, great, honestly. Episode 12, The Way We Was. The Way We Was is our first full episode exploration into the past, specifically when Homer and Marge met during the senior year prom season. I think the biggest thing with this episode is it's just really sweet. Homer is basically the Homer we know now, kind of a loser, but with an absolute heart of gold. And then Marge is just kind of implied to be one of the most popular kids in school. She did win prom queen after all. And we get introduced to Artie Ziff as the person Marge was going to prom with after she dumps Homer for lying. The reality of The Way We Was is just solid. There's a lot of sweet moments and a really great dive into Homer and Marge. I don't really have much more to say because when an episode's good, it's good. That's just how things go. A thing being bad is something that's way easier to break down. This was wrong. This was wrong. And I think being like truly amazing is easy to find the things that stand out, but a really solid episode are usually the hardest things to find anything to say about, and The Way We Was is just a really solid episode of The Simpsons, so let's move on. Episode 15, My Brother, Where Art Thou? My Brother, Where Art Thou is the introduction to Homer's long-lost half-brother Herb, played by Danny DeVito. Herb is the head of a popular automobile company and invites Homer into his world to give him insight on the common man. Only downside is Homer Simpson and inevitably fumbles the situation, tanking Herb's business. I think this is another just really solid, great episode. Lots of fun jokes. It's nice meeting Herb, and Danny DeVito plays the part well. I like Danny DeVito's voice in like everything. He's great. And yeah, just a really fun episode like the majority of the season has been, and I'm not going to be shy with this next and final episode after this, so I think we should just move into it, shall we? Episode 19, Lisa's Substitute. Guys, we all knew I'd be talking about this. Lisa's Substitute is one of the other most beloved episodes of the entire season. And while for me, One Fish and not finishing the title fish doesn't really land, Lisa's Substitute is the best storytelling that Simpsons has put on display up until this point, and is my favorite episode of the entire series up until here too. Gonna start with the subplot. Bart runs for class president against Martin, but Bart winds up not even voting and losing. It's a fun subplot to add some breaks between the main story and just has also a sweet ending between Bart and Homer. But the main plot sees Miss Hoover, Lisa's teacher, being sick, so the second grade has to get a substitute teacher named Mr. Bergstrom. He's literally like every cool teacher trait you can give. On the first day, he literally comes into the class dressed like a cowboy, ready for the history unit that he's about to teach, and it's immediately something that connects him with Lisa. Lisa's love for learning often is so disregarded by everyone around her, student and teacher alike, so when she finally meets another person who shares her love for it, she falls head over heels. Bergstrom, in turn, really connects with her and decides to be that adult she can look up to. He starts off thinking, oh, she must have gotten this from her father, but when Homer proves to be Homer, that's not the case. Through this limited time he has Lisa in class, he absolutely provides her one of the only kindred spirits she's ever had, to the point where she winds up kind of developing a crush on him. Well, fully developing a crush on him. A cute thing that the show does is that even though she's crushing on him, it's just known it can never be. But I love the scene of Marge and Lisa talking where Marge says all of Lisa's emotions or how she feels about Homer is just really sweet. This all culminates when Miss Hoover's back and it's revealed that Bergstrom took off without telling anyone. Lisa looks for him and eventually meets him one final time by the train where they get to say goodbye, and he heads off to Capital City to help the underprivileged children there. Lisa is sad, she takes out her anger on Homer, but he finally comes to talk to her and have this heart-to-heart. It's goofy, but it's sweet, and beyond all of this, it's a genuinely beautiful moment. Homer and Lisa continue to have my favorite dynamic of the entire family, with a genuine bond that always just strikes a fire. And the scene should have been the end, but hey, a nitpick doesn't lower a 10 out of 10 amazing episode for me. I want to give proper flowers also to Dustin Hoffman, who instead went by the name Sam Eddick. Dustin brings a great sincerity to Mr. Bergstrom that makes him shine all stronger. And this is the episode that I really, really loved this season. This is, I think, truly the first time that The Simpsons shows all of its cards on what the show can be. I think for now that's enough words about this episode, but you need to see this one for yourself and how magical it is. And just like that, those are the highlights and blind spots of season 2. I want to give you a little peek behind the curtain because I've basically been running numbers for each season of the show to go over and score the episodes. I've also been averaging the scores of each season to create a ranking of the seasons, which asks us the question, what season of The Simpsons is better, 1 or 2? And it's 2, definitively 2. Season 2 walked out with an average of 7.9 out of 10, where season 1's got an average of like 6.5. I genuinely think that with season 2, the writers had a lot more confidence in their craft. The characters aren't solved yet, but they are there. The heart and humor of the show has been showing up more, and we really see in the season Mr. Burns take the primary antagonist spot and a majorly prominent role. On top of that, I think both Marge and Lisa finally have more to do, even though the show remains the Bart and Homer show for a lot of the time. This being said, there's so much the show has yet to really add. So hopefully join me next month when we examine season 3. You've probably noticed I'm not really mentioning a lot of my scores anymore, but I'm gonna be releasing my scorecard for the series to Patreon as this is all uploaded so you can keep track of what I'm doing. Also on Patreon, eventually I want to do ballots for supplemental episode reviews to be released there and also to YouTube maybe. Finally, just like, comment, and subscribe. The first video did better than I expected. It did fine, you know, it's quieted down, but it did well, decently enough. And if you like the second one, it would be good to just share it out there too. I am really hoping that I can get to the point where YouTube is monetized and I'm at the very least operating the channel on a net zero instead of a net negative, because the battle when you're doing YouTube is there's always gonna be expenses and you want to eventually earn more than you're paying for things out. And I've already put some of my own time and money investments both into my channel. I'm just really hoping once I can get more people to help out, it'll be really great. Yeah, thanks for watching though, and I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.